You're watching a brand new series called Inside the Right. I'm joined by my co-host Tim Miller. He's an author at The Bulwark and also worked with Jeb Bush in 2016. He's been inside Republican politics for a long time and can offer an insider's perspective into what's happening on the right. Tim, thanks for joining.
Hey Brian, happy to do it, man. I think this will be very fruitful. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to punish myself by spending more time, listening to the Candace Owens podcast and Steve Bannon, but I do it for all the viewers
That's
out
right.
there.
Do it for the content. All right. So, Tim, what better way to start a series examining what's happening inside the right than by looking at the New York Young Republican Club Gala? Now, this is a gala. You have a certain image of who the attendees are and what the event is like. Here's a quick clip of exactly what did happen here.
J.R. Majewski, somebody that the deep state did some really bad things to, but we stuck by him. We stuck by him. And J.R., where's J.R.? What a job. What a job. Well, it shows perseverance works, right? You know, he backed me. He took a tractor. He had a sign, Trump, Trump, Trump all over the fields of your beautiful state. And you've been totally exonerated. You told the truth. And they played dirty pool, but you'll get a second shot, right? You're going to get a second shot. Great job. What they did to you is very unfair. He makes the news every night, screaming at these maniacs. Alex Brusewitz, who has been incredible. Where's Alex? I want to see him. Alex Brusewitz. Where are you, Alex? Thank you. What a job you've done between you and DC Drano and Alex Stein.
Yeah, just casual shout outs for insurrectionists. Tim, talk about who the attendees are here and what it says about what a second Trump term would actually look like.
Yeah, I think that this, in a weird way, actually tells us a lot about what Trump 2.0 would look like, and it's pretty scary. Generally speaking, right, if you're a former president, you're going to speak at a political gala. You're going to have a lot of dignitaries around you. Usually it'll be a couple rich guys or gals, the local governor, the local congressman, politicians past that have been retired. But none of those people in the Republican Party, like they all are on board with Trump, but they still find him kind of icky, right? So they keep him at an arm's length. The old establishment politicians, George Pataki, the governor of New York, he's not going to these types of things. And so who did he have at the head table? I called someone I'm doing some reporting on in the room to ask him that, like, who's at the head table at this thing? It's the head of the Young Republicans in New York, who's this very Trumpy character. It was Matt Gaetz and his wife. It's Steve Bannon, who obviously has two indictments underneath his cap, and his podcasting co-host, and it's Trump's lawyer for all of his fraud files. I mean, this is like this is a rogues gallery at the head table at this gala. Then Trump gets up there on stage. Who's he shouting out? Again, the New York congressional delegation, not there. He does mention Elise Stefanik, who's been, made this pivot to becoming more Trumpy. I used to work with her back at the RNC when she was normal, and she's totally flipped. So he mentioned her. She had something else, somewhere else she had to be. But he doesn't even mention the other New York congressmen, like the supposedly more moderate ones, like Mike Lawler or whoever. They're not there. They don't get mentioned. Who gets mentioned? J.R. Majewski, the congressman from Ohio, who was storming the Capitol basically on January 6th. I mean,
Who lied about his military service while trying to get elected.
Yeah. Who else did he shout out? Random online MAGA influencers. You don't usually hear a former president being like, "Hey there, DC Drano, it's good to see you out there, and good to see you, Pizzagate Jack Posobiec." Those are the people that are getting shouted out. And so in some ways it's kind of silly and you can laugh at that. It's like, it's kind of crazy, like how D-list these people are. But here's the thing. If Trump gets back in there, that head table, Steve Bannon, his podcast co-host, Matt Gaetz, DC Drano, they're going to be like the senior people in our government. When Trump went in there the first time, I don't want to defend any of these people. I was never Trumper from day one, but you had Madison there. Even Reince Priebus, my former boss, was kind of like a pretty normal Republican type guy. Who was the chief of staff. You had H.R. McMaster, Rex Tillerson as an oil guy. After whatever you think about all those people, they're at least the types of people that you would generally have in those kinds of jobs. Those people are gone now, right? And all that is left is the ultra MAGA, conspiratorial, criminal wing of the party. And man, I think that is just kind of alarming to look at that gala and think this could be the inaugural ball right? Like that's what the inaugural ball would look like. DC Drano and Steve Bannon would be there at the head table. I think that I don't know that a lot of that's really sunk in with a lot of the media and voters out there. And I think that's an important thing to educate people about.
Well, you'd mentioned the fact that you don't have, the dignitaries there, like the establishment Republicans, the donors and whatnot. Does that mean that these people aren't ultimately going to just come crawling back to Trump in the end, if and when he becomes the Republican nominee? Like you have the Koch brothers who've donated to Nikki Haley. They put her up on their mantle, but is this all just like a fool's errand? Are we pretending? Are we like lying to ourselves when we suggest that these people aren't going to come crawling back to Trump in the end?
They're all going to come crawling back. And a lot of them are even for him in the primary, right? It's just that they're not going to be in the inner circle, right? Because Trump doesn't trust them. And a lot of them want to kind of save face. They don't want to be the next Rudy, that's out there in front of Four Seasons Total Landscaping. And so they have this uneasy partnership where they're collaborating with Trump. They're totally on board for all of his most vile policy proposals and corrupt plans, but they're not Trump. They're not going to be in Mar-a-Lago, right? They're not going to be among his advisors. And so when you look at the Kochs and people like that, a lot of them are just kind of checking the box right now in order to save face with their more moderate. It's kind of crazy we call the Kochs moderate now, but they're more moderate friends, right? More libertarian leaning, let's say, friends. And eventually they are going to be on board. Maybe not every single one of them. I know that a lot of my former Never Trumper friends are out there recruiting people, trying to get them on board to run ads against Trump, and hopefully we can recruit some of these people. But the big names, the Nikki Haley's and the DeSantis's and their supporters, they're going to get on board with the Trump train. And here's the thing. I wrote about this this week for the Bulwark. The writing is already on the wall, and Nikki Haley and her team, I even kind of know that it's over, right? Like if you look at the endorsement count right now, this is crazy, Brian. 109 sitting Republican senators, congressmen, and governors have endorsed Trump. Haley has two. Haley has two. Chris Sununu in New Hampshire, who endorsed her on Tuesday, and Ralph Norman, who's our home state congressman, who's like kind of a crazy Trumper, but I guess they must have a personal relationship. That's it. Why is that? Because these folks all know that they're going to end up getting on board the Trump train anyway. They don't want to be mad at him, and they just want to kind of keep this safe. Excuse me. They don't want him to be mad at them. And they want to keep this safe arm's length distance where they support him eventually, but they aren't going to have to go to trial because they're his right hand man the next time he tries a coup.
And Tim, you mentioned the Bulwark. For anybody watching right now, if you want to support Tim, definitely make sure to subscribe to the Bulwark's YouTube channel. I'll put the link right here on the screen. You can see more of Tim, and there's a lot of great analysis there. There are all of these crazies who are showing up for Donald Trump right now, and he's openly embracing them. What about the fact that he's going to have to reach out to moderates? He's going to have to reach out to independents. He's going to have to reach out to suburban women. Doesn't it negatively impact his ability to do that when he's out there openly embracing DC Drano and Pizzagate Jack?
You know, Trump can't help himself in a lot of ways. Like he is just drawn to people that are going to be loyal lickspittles to him, right? And so he's never going to push away the Pizzagate Jacks of the world, right? Like that is going to be his home base. He feels that he was spurned by Mike Pence and Bill Barr and all these guys last time, and he doesn't want those folks around. So then how does he reach out to the suburban women? I think he's going to try to have his cake and eat it too, right? I think that he tries to reach out to more moderate voters by saying, hey, I'm not going to be quite as aggressive on foreign policy as some on the right have been. I'm not going to get us into any wars. He's going to try to have it both ways on abortion. I think the Democrats are obviously going to crush him on this, and they should, because he was responsible for the overturn of Roe. But he's going to try to say like, oh, it's some of these crazy Republicans that want to do the 6-week ban. Like that Texas thing that's happening is terrible. I was more about maybe 15, maybe 20. We'll cut a deal. He'll kind of try to keep it vague and try to, hew the middle line on that. And that's why I just think it's so important. It's so crucial that, there's this view of some people on the left that it's like, oh, we shouldn't platform Trump. We shouldn't talk about him. Giving him attention, giving him oxygen is how he gets power. And I understood that point of view 8 years ago, but we are where we are now. And like honestly, it will be up to the Never Trumpers, to the people on the left, to educate those voters and say and be like, no, here's why you actually have to know who Pizzagate Jack and Steve Bannon are. I know you don't care. I know you have a regular life you need to deal with, but like these people want to put camps in place, and they're going to be in charge of the government, right? So they need to be educated about the threat of Trump's staffing, about the threat of his policies. He's I just was talking about this over on the board. He's kind of doing a Muslim ban 2.0 right now that he's bringing in. That's under the radar a little bit. He's not calling it a Muslim ban, but it's basically a Muslim ban. So we've got to educate those moderate voters about that, because he is going to try to do his thing where he energizes his base by talking about all the crazy conspiratorial stuff, and then when he's in a debate stage or in another environment, he's going to try to modulate and moderate.
Got it. And I think your point about making sure to highlight what he's doing right now is so important. I completely agree. A few years back, when he was getting wall-to-wall coverage, it kind of feeds into exactly what he needs. But people have short attention spans, and they kind of forgot how chaotic and how dysfunctional everything was when he was in charge. And that kind of redounds to his benefit now, as we can't bring ourselves to imagine what it felt like when we were in the midst of all of the trauma, right? And so I think it's important now, when he's going up there and reminding people, doing our work for us, and basically reminding people that he's gonna be a dictator on day one, that he's gonna reinstate the Muslim ban, that he's gonna do all of this stuff that basically would and should push people away, that we have to make sure that people know that, and not just say like, oh, well, we don't want to platform him, as if us platforming him is going to like raise his name ID. It's Donald Trump. Everybody knows who he is.
100.
At this point, we have to just make sure that people know what he's saying, because what he's saying is doing the work for us and pushing those people away.
Yeah, the Muslim ban is the prime example. That's just really quick. It was so long ago, right? Like it was early in 2017.
Yeah.
This is 6 years ago. There are many people voting who are in high school then, or who are in middle school then. Forget high school. And there was that chaotic evening, where people are protesting outside of airports. Green card holders, legal residents are being held in airport cells, because people are unsure exactly what the new rules were of this executive order. It was totally unconstitutional, totally un-American. People were scared, rightfully scared, even if they were legal immigrants who came from Muslim majority countries. Like, that could all come back, right? And just because that ended up getting kind of dealt with because, the courts did the right thing. The next time it might not, that 2 days of chaos that we all remember might be the whole 4 years, right? And so it is important to remind people about that, because I do think that gets lost. Memories are short, and it's like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that Muslim being bad, but wasn't it resolved? I don't remember what happened. People need to see those videos again of just how insane it was, and that's what he's planning to do again.
This gala in New York happened amid Trump's comments, as I just alluded to, about being a dictator as of day one. But for all intents and purposes, this didn't seem to push anybody away. It actually seemed to redouble those attendees' commitment to Donald Trump. How do you reconcile the GOP's purported allegiance to the Constitution with the fact that what he is saying is so nakedly antithetical to it?
Yeah. Again, I think that there are two groups of people within the GOP. There's a group of people that were in that room at the gala that are kind of excited about the dictator thing. If they're upset at Trump, they were upset at him because he gave too much power away to Jared Kushner and to all the people that I was talking about earlier that were the guardrails against Trump's authoritarian impulses.
Yeah.
Like the people in that room, the true MAGAs are mad about that. They want kind of a soft Trumpy fascism, and that's what that's what they're there for. That's what they signed up for. So for that group, it doesn't hurt them at all. They're into it. For the other group, the people that do still purport to believe in the Constitution, your more old school Republican types, the senators, your Mitch McConnells and all them, that this is the bind that he's putting them in. And they have made a moral sacrifice to go along with it in exchange for whatever power, continuing to be elected, owning the whatever each individual motivation is. They've sacrificed that, and I do think hopefully we'll be able to kind of pull some of those people away. Obviously, you're seeing that with Liz Cheney, but that's going to be the main fight as we go into 2024, is how we kind of motivate those more old school Republicans to abandon him this time.
Okay, I want to pivot and end here on
Yeah.
a foreign policy question, and it does allude to those same old school Republicans. Republicans purport to be very hardline against the Chinas and Irans of the world. Not funding Ukraine, as it's looking like will happen now, would be a gift to Russia, which is allied with those very countries of China and Iran. How are we seeing that cognitive dissonance on this issue, and why doesn't it seem to matter to the hardliners that who claim to want to fight back against China and Iran, and yet at the same time are helping this allegiance that would directly benefit those very countries?
It's just, I think, unfortunately, everything else goes back to Trump. Trump has this personal animus towards Ukraine, and he has this kind of weird affinity for Putin, and he has this personal animus towards Ukraine over impeachment one and all these other things, and so he has contaminated the water when it comes to funding Ukraine among Republican voters. And so these supposed hawks, supposed strong national security Republicans are kind of like backfilling rationalizations for why they can't get on board, because they know it's not politically popular with their base anymore, because Trump has basically manipulated them into changing their views about long-standing views about the threat from Russia. So I think this is a major problem. Zelensky's going to be there. There have been a handful of Republicans worth mentioning. McConnell has been pretty solid on this, as bad as McConnell's been on so much. He has been solid on just getting the money, but it seems like they're out of political capital here on this issue on the right, and it's grotesque. And this whole notion that like the Democrats need to give them some immigration thing in order to fund Ukraine is so disgusting. I just imagine if the shoe was on the other foot and the Democrats were like, "Oh, in order to help protect a democracy, we need you to do Medicare for all."
Right.
They don't have anything to do with each other, right? And so it's also, I think, a nonsense gambit. So I'm hopeful that Biden, say one thing on Joe Biden. He's done pretty good he's done much better than I expected and most people expected about getting Republicans on board for some bipartisan stuff. If you look at the various things that he's passed, hopefully he can pull this off one more time. But right now it's looking ugly, and it all has to do with Trump and the way that he's contaminated how the Republican base thinks about this issue.
All right, well, that seems like a good place to end, so we'll leave it there. Again, for anybody who wants to support Tim and his work, please make sure to subscribe to the Bulwarks YouTube channel. I'll put the link right here on the screen. I'll also put the link in the post description of this video. Also, if you want to see, if you have any questions or comments, suggestions about what you'd like to see for future episodes of Inside the Right, definitely leave a comment in this video, and we'll take those into account as we continue moving this series forward. With that said, I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Tim Miller.
You're watching Inside the Right.